Nintendo's recent decision to raise games prices has sparked a lot of discussion and anger. Now, off the bat, I'm going to be really honest, I was very excited by what I saw about the Switch 2 outside of pricing and economics. Before I get into the meat and potatoes of this discussion, I just want to ask you, the viewer, how much money do you spend on video games every month, or let's say every 2 months? And if you have kids, or you're a parent, how much money do you spend on your kids when it comes to video games? How many games do you buy them a month? Do you buy them games on release? Do your kids know about these games when they're coming out? I'm just really interested, just as a general thought process thing, just like what do people do when it comes to buying games? Anyway, onto the topic at hand. So as I said, I was excited about the Switch 2. I actually don't think the console price was that bad. I know. I was in my head, I thought £400 would be about right for the console. £450 at a push. It comes in at about $420, I believe, with Mario Kart, which is about right. And that's backed up by the fact that the general build quality, seemingly from what I've read and seen, is very good. It's much better than the Switch 1. Quality is there. I feel like the price is justified in the console itself, from what I've heard. But then, of course, came the game prices. And not only that, but the way those prices were revealed. The way the prices were hidden at the bottom of a website, buried information. It just all felt a bit underhand. Now, if they thought the backlash was bad and all that, wait till they see their upcoming game sales figure, because I believe Nintendo and other companies and the industry as a whole are going to be in for a shock. Let me explain why. In recent years, video game prices have seen a steady climb across the industry. Following in the footsteps of other major publishers, Nintendo has begun increasing the standard price of its first-party titles, with some new releases now priced at $70, up from the long-standing $60 benchmark. Now for the UK, that's £60 up to £70, and in some cases £75 for Mario Kart World. Now while this change may appear to be modest on paper, the broader economic context suggests that the price hike could significantly impact Nintendo's overall game sales, as well as every other company in the games industry, because every company is fighting for everybody's money from the same pot. At the heart of this issue is a changing economic landscape. Now, I'm doing this video on the 7th of April, I've lost track of the date, and Trump's tariffs are about to hit hard, not only specific countries, but in the whole world. The lack of disposable income is a huge issue in households. As inflation continues to strain budgets, many consumers are finding it harder to justify non-essential purchases. With essentials like groceries, gas, and rent steadily rising, entertainment is often one of the first areas where people cut back. Video games, especially full-price AAA titles, are becoming a luxury rather than a regular purchase for many players. A $10 increase might seem negligible to some, but for families with multiple children or young gamers on a tight budget who save their money, that jump can be a tipping point. Now, it can be a tipping point in the sense that I'm not saying that nobody's going to buy games at that price. People are definitely going to still buy games at that price. Let's not fool ourselves. But people are not going to buy multiple games at that price. Let me give you a quick example. If somebody saves £150 to buy some video games, if one game is £90, they can no longer afford to buy two when the games were £70. They can only buy one. That is then going to be a multiplicative effect over the course of the whole year, and games sales are going to be down. This reminds me very much of the live service model and how that died a death recently. Every company thought they could create a live service game that was a cash cow. Of course, one thing they didn't realize, with every single company thinking the same thing, there wouldn't be enough hours for players to play all these live service games. There's a finite number of hours in a day for people to play games, just like there's a finite amount of money people can spend on games. If everybody makes a live service game, almost everybody's going to miss out on players, because people can only play one live service game at a time, maybe two at a push. The same's going to happen here with people buying video games. Now, Nintendo might not be affected on themselves because they've got a long-standing reputation of producing high quality games. I feel like Nintendo sales will not be hit. They are going to sell, I think, at £80, £70, and £90. People will buy enough of their games that they make that money at £90. Titles like Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, you could go on and on. They're excellent games, there's no denying it. However, not every game release can justify a £80, £85, $70, whatever you want to call it, price, especially when players are already juggling subscriptions, DLC costs, and then hardware upgrades if it's PC, buying new controllers which are now more expensive, etc, etc. When faced with limited funds, consumers are more likely to become selective, purchasing fewer games per year and waiting for discounts or used copies. But here's the kicker, Nintendo don't discount. So where are we going with this? Well, we're going towards less sales. And I do believe we will have a shift from impulse buying or impulse pre-ordering to people waiting. I believe day one sales will be massively down at this price point, and pre-orders too. And this is where video games media becomes even more important than ever. Reviewing a game, giving the game the time to review, being honest about how much time you've spent reviewing a game so the reader knows, right, this reviewer spent 20 hours playing a 100-hour game and they've done their review. If people were more honest about their reviews, I think people could be smarter about the way they spend their money and who they trust when it comes to their reviews. Now, just to conclude this section of this conversation, I believe Nintendo are going to make as much money, if not more money, than they did previously. But their units sold are going to be less. The knock-on effect is going to be to other companies who are definitely going to be making less and selling less. Now, Nintendo also faces growing competition, not just from Sony and Microsoft, but from mobile gaming, indie developers and free-to-play models. These platforms often offer high-quality experiences at a fraction of the cost, or in some cases even free. As a result, consumers may pivot away from traditional console games in search of better value, especially at this £80 or £90, $100, whatever we're calling it, price point. Moreover, with subscription services like Xbox Game Pass gaining traction, the gaming industry is rapidly evolving towards models that prioritize accessibility over premium pricing. Nintendo's resistance to this trend could leave it vulnerable, especially if consumers begin to feel they're getting less for their money, or simply they can find better value elsewhere. So what am I trying to say with all this? Well, while raising game prices might help Nintendo offset rising development costs and inflationary pressure in the short term, the long-term implications are less clear and, in my opinion, are looking quite dangerous. If the average gamer is forced to buy fewer titles due to stretched finances, Nintendo could see a drop in total game sales, as could the gaming industry on the whole. If I was the industry, I'd be very careful about uniformly whacking up prices. I think you just may burst the bubble that you've been enjoying so very much. In a time when entertainment dollars are spread thin, value matters more than ever for families. For Nintendo to maintain its dominant position in the market, it may need to reconsider how pricing affects access, ultimately loyalty. That's my take on Nintendo's pricing and how it's going to affect the wider industry. I generally believe this is going to result in a huge drop-off of sales, and I believe the second-hand market is going to boom if we keep going this way. For me, somebody who, in my life, £70 is for a video game, it's my hobby, I love it, I don't even think twice. At £90, I would definitely stutter before buying something. And I can only imagine for people who are much tighter on finances, it's going to be a hell of a struggle, man. I do feel for them. I do hope this gets pulled back by Nintendo, because the backlash has been huge. And I reckon other execs are looking at this thinking, I think some people think they're going to be rubbing their hands, but I think they're going to be thinking, I don't know if they're ready for this. We'll see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for listening. If you got this far, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. I'm just a guy who loves games. I love to talk about them. And yeah. I'll be reviewing games and whatnot with your help. If you like, subscribe, etc. It helps me a ton. Peace out. Take care.